Ethan never thought of himself as a sleepwalker. In fact, he barely even dreamed. But lately, he had been waking up in odd places, on the cold tile of the bathroom floor, slumped against his front door, once even outside his apartment balcony, shivering under the early morning sky. At first, he brushed it off. Stress, maybe? But when he found muddy footprints leading from his bed to the living room, despite having no memory of getting up, his unease grew. Determined to get answers, he set up a camera in his bedroom before going to sleep. The next morning, he hesitated before playing the footage. His stomach knotted as he pressed play. At first, nothing seemed strange. He lay still, curled beneath his sheets. Then, at exactly 2:53 a.m., his body tensed. He sat up in a slow, mechanical motion. He swung his legs over the side of his bed and stood. His face, barely visible in the dim light, was eerily blank. Then he turned towards the camera. Ethan's breath hitched. In the recording, he just stood there, staring. His eyes were locked on the lens, wide, glassy, and completely unblinking. He didn't move, didn't shift, didn't even breathe deeply. Minutes passed, then an hour. His stillness felt unnatural, like something was holding him in place. But then, he moved. Not much, just a small, sudden twitch. His head tilted slightly, as if listening to something behind him. His lips parted and muttered something under his breath, too quiet to make out. Then, just as quickly, he snapped his gaze back to the camera. A few minutes later, he did it again. His head swiveled to the side, his mouth moving. It was clearer this time, though the words were still barely audible. Ethan turned the volume up, heart pounding. The sound was distorted, warping in and out, but he caught fragments. Okay. I will. When? His voice was flat, emotionless. He sounded like he was answering someone. Then, as he turned back to face the camera, his mouth started moving unnaturally. His lips slowly curved, as if he was forcing a smile, as if something was pulling his face into the expression against his will. The smile stayed frozen on his face for the rest of the recording, his eyes never leaving the camera. Ethan slammed his laptop shut, his pulse hammering. He had been answering someone? Someone he couldn't see? That night, he didn't set up the camera. He wasn't sure he wanted to see what came next. But as he climbed into bed, a chilling thought settled in his mind. If he had been answering something, at what point would he start listening?